Most people don't realize it yet, but we are living in the golden age of stupidity, and it's not by accident. Day after day, the ability to think deeply, to question, to reason, is being traded for fast answers and mindless distractions. The tragedy? This trade feels convenient until it costs you your freedom. We've entered an era where wisdom is no longer valued, where leadership is replaced by noise, and where the masses are shaped by those who understand how to control the flow of attention. Respect, power, and authority are no longer earned through knowledge, but through the ability to dominate the narrative, and that should terrify you. You'll start noticing it everywhere, in conversations that go nowhere, in the way people consume information without questioning, in the quiet death of curiosity. It's not just an intellectual decline, it's a spiritual and emotional one. The absence of deep thought weakens not only the mind, but the very soul of a society. The strategy behind this mass dumbing down is subtle. It's designed to make you feel informed while ensuring you remain powerless. That's why those who master self-control, leadership, and influence stand out like giants in a world of sleepwalkers. If you've ever felt that something is off, that the world is moving faster but thinking less, you're not imagining it. This is a calculated erosion of independent thought. And if you don't build your defense, you'll be swept away with the crowd. In this video, we'll strip away the illusions and expose the hidden mechanisms that keep people docile, distracted, and dependent. More importantly, we'll explore the tools you need to reclaim your mental sovereignty, because once you see what's really happening, you can never unsee it. And once you know how to fight back, the game changes forever. The first step, recognizing the signs, and they're closer than you think. Critical thinking doesn't disappear overnight. It dies slowly, replaced by a false sense of knowing. People stop questioning, not because they suddenly trust everything, but because questioning feels like too much effort. This is how the erosion of respect for truth begins, quietly, without alarm bells. You see it when conversations turn into repetitions of headlines, when people confuse being informed with simply scrolling. It's the illusion of intelligence without the work of deep understanding. In a world like this, authority doesn't come from knowledge anymore, but from the loudest voice in the room. The loss of critical thinking is not just an intellectual issue, it's a spiritual and emotional decay. Without the ability to analyze, people lose their power, their leadership potential, and even their sense of self. They become easy to influence because they don't realize they are being influenced. One strategy to reverse this is to train your mind daily, just like a muscle. Read books that challenge your beliefs, not just those that confirm them. For example, pairing Marcus Aurelius's Meditations with Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power will teach you both inner discipline and external strategy. Another habit is practicing mental fasting. Set aside moments with no phone, no music, no noise. Let your thoughts collide in silence. That's where self-mastery begins, when you're not afraid to hear your own mind and challenge it. Leaders who retain critical thinking in this climate are rare and valuable. They stand out, not because they shout louder, but because their words are grounded in substance. This is how influence is built in a world where depth is dying. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The systems around you are designed to make critical thinking inconvenient. If you've never wondered why, you might already be in deeper than you think. And the next sign will make this even clearer. The decline of wisdom often begins with the rise of comfort. Comfort feels safe, predictable, and easy, but it's also where ambition and mental sharpness go to die. People stop striving for more because they've mistaken comfort for success, and soon they lose the authority over their own lives. When everything is designed to make life effortless, fast food, instant news, same-day delivery, the mind grows lazy. Strategy fades because there's no reason to plan when gratification is immediate. This is how respect for effort erodes. People stop valuing what takes time to build. The comfort trap isn't just physical, it's deeply emotional and spiritual. Without challenges, the soul becomes restless, the body weaker, and leadership instincts fade. In time, those who avoid discomfort become dependent on those willing to endure it. That's how power shifts silently. To escape the trap, you must deliberately invite discomfort into your life. Start with small acts. Wake up an hour earlier to read something challenging. Learn a skill that frustrates you. Fast for a day just to test your will. Self-discipline grows through deliberate resistance. This habit not only strengthens your mind but makes you harder to control. Systems of influence rely on your desire for comfort. The moment you stop needing it, you break their leverage over you. That's the foundation of true self-mastery. Leaders throughout history understood this. From Stoic philosophers to military strategists, they embraced discomfort as training for greater battles. They knew that in a world addicted to ease, those who can endure difficulty will naturally lead. And yet, the next layer of this decline is even more dangerous, because it's not about avoiding challenge, but about willingly embracing mental chains disguised as freedom. One of the most dangerous lies of our time is the belief that we are freer than ever. Yes, you can choose what to watch, what to buy, and where to go, but these choices are often pre-selected for you. Real power comes from the freedom to think for yourself, and that's the very thing being stolen. The illusion works because it feels empowering. You choose your news, yet the algorithm decides what's worth showing. You decide what to believe, yet most of your ideas are recycled from voices you've never questioned. This is influence at its most sophisticated. True leadership and self-mastery require breaking out of these invisible cages. That begins with recognizing them. Ask yourself, when was the last time I changed my mind because I found better information? If you can't remember, you might not be as free as you think. One practical strategy is to expose yourself to opposing views. Read books and listen to debates that challenge your current beliefs. Not to agree with them, but to test your reasoning. Without friction, your mental authority weakens. Freedom without strategy is just chaos dressed in attractive colors. The systems shaping society understand this perfectly. They give you an endless buffet of choices that all lead to the same outcome: dependency. Those who protect their mental sovereignty are not easily swayed by trends, marketing, or political rhetoric. They influence instead of being influenced. They lead instead of being led. That's the kind of freedom worth protecting. But as you'll see next, even those who believe they're independent thinkers can fall into a deeper, more subtle trap, one that plays directly on human emotion. Powerful systems have always known this. If you control how people feel, you control how they think. Logic can be resisted, but emotions bypass reasoning entirely. That's why respect, power, and influence are often gained not through facts, but through the ability to stir feelings. In today's world, emotional manipulation is everywhere. News headlines are crafted to spark outrage, social media posts are designed to provoke envy, and advertising plays on fear of missing out. These emotions are not accidents, they're strategies. When you allow your emotions to be constantly hijacked, you surrender self-mastery. Instead of acting from strategy, you react from impulse. And in the realm of leadership, those who react instead of act are always at a disadvantage. To protect yourself, practice emotional distance. This doesn't mean becoming cold or unfeeling. It means pausing before responding. When a post makes you angry, ask why. When an offer excites you, ask who benefits. This small habit restores authority over your mind. Historical leaders mastered this. Marcus Aurelius wrote about training the mind to remain calm in chaos. Machiavelli taught that understanding emotion in others, while controlling your own, is the foundation of influence. In a society addicted to emotional highs and lows, calm becomes a superpower. People will respect and follow those who remain steady when everyone else is losing control. This is the mark of true leadership. But emotional control is only half the battle. The next danger is far more invisible. It's the quiet acceptance of mediocrity disguised as balance. Mediocrity rarely arrives as an enemy. It comes dressed as comfort, balance, and realism. It whispers that aiming too high is dangerous, that discipline is exhausting, and that leadership is for other people. Over time, this mindset kills ambition and quietly erodes authority over your own life. The danger is that mediocrity feels safe. No one criticizes you for being average. You blend in, avoid risk, and stay within the limits society sets for you. But safety without growth is just a slow decay, and influence cannot thrive in stagnation. People often mistake stability for peace. In truth, stability without challenge breeds weakness. Leaders, philosophers, and strategists throughout history embraced calculated risk because they knew respect and power come only to those willing to stretch beyond comfort. Escaping mediocrity requires intentional disruption. This might mean setting a bold personal goal, taking on a project that feels slightly too big, or committing to daily habits that challenge your endurance. Each act of defiance against mediocrity strengthens self-mastery. One useful strategy is to measure yourself not against others, but against your own potential. Ask, am I leading myself as I would lead someone I deeply respect? If the answer is no, it's time for change. Mediocrity doesn't need to be fought with anger. It needs to be replaced with vision. A clear sense of purpose naturally pulls you out of the gravitational pull of average living. That's how true leadership emerges. Yet even those who escape mediocrity face another enemy: the endless noise that drowns out clarity of thought and weakens your ability to act strategically. We live in an age where silence has become a luxury. Every moment is filled with notifications, opinions, and demands for your attention. This constant noise isn't harmless. It erodes your ability to think strategically, to lead with authority, and to maintain true self-mastery. When your mind is always reacting, it stops creating. Leadership, influence, and power come from the ability to step back, see patterns, and make deliberate moves. Noise prevents this. It keeps you busy but ineffective, active but unproductive. Philosophers knew the value of solitude. Leaders from ancient generals to modern visionaries protected their mental space as fiercely as their physical security. They understood that clarity is a weapon, and without it, strategy collapses. To reclaim clarity, you must set boundaries against noise. This could mean starting your day without touching your phone for the first hour, scheduling time for deep reading, or practicing meditation. These acts are not luxuries. They are necessities for leadership. Noise also comes disguised as productivity. Endless meetings, constant emails, and a flood of urgent tasks can make you feel important while stealing your true influence. The discipline to say no is a mark of power. When you control the noise, you control the narrative of your life. Respect, authority, and strategic thinking all depend on your ability to hear your own thoughts without the static of the world drowning them out. But once you find clarity, the challenge becomes sustaining it, especially in a culture that rewards distraction and punishes deep focus. Distraction today is not an accident. It's a billion-dollar industry. Companies compete for your attention with the precision of military strategists, knowing that the more distracted you are, the less power, influence, and self-mastery you hold over your own life. Every swipe, every notification, every just one more episode is part of a larger strategy to keep you reactive instead of proactive. Leaders who fall into this trap slowly lose their ability to think deeply, plan ahead, and command respect. The distraction economy thrives because it offers instant rewards. a quick laugh, a burst of outrage, a sudden sense of connection, all designed to keep you hooked. But leadership, strategy, and authority are built on long-term thinking, not short-term dopamine hits. Escaping this cycle requires a conscious decision to value focus over entertainment. This might mean deleting certain apps, setting strict time limits for social media, or replacing passive scrolling with intentional learning. History shows us that those who control their focus control their destiny. From philosophers who spent hours in contemplation to entrepreneurs who built empires from clear vision, the principle remains: focus is power. The danger isn't just losing time, it's losing yourself. When your mind is constantly pulled in every direction, you forget your own path, your own goals, and your own leadership potential. And as we'll explore next, there's a deeper problem. Distraction doesn't just steal your focus, it rewires your brain, making it harder to ever return to deep thinking. Constant distraction isn't just a bad habit, it physically changes how your brain works. The more you feed it with rapid, shallow bursts of information, the harder it becomes to engage in deep focus, strategic thinking, and the kind of disciplined leadership that commands respect. Neuroscience shows that attention is like a muscle. When trained, it grows stronger, allowing for greater influence and mastery over your decisions. When neglected, it atrophies, leaving you vulnerable to manipulation and reactive living. This is why so many people struggle to read a long book, sit through a quiet meeting, or plan for the long term. Their minds have been conditioned for constant stimulation, leaving little room for the patience and clarity that power requires. Reversing this process takes deliberate practice. Start with short periods of focused work, no phone, no interruptions, and gradually extend them. Read challenging material, journal your thoughts, or engage in problem-solving activities that demand sustained attention. Leaders and philosophers throughout history understood this truth. From Sun Tzu preparing for battle to Marcus Aurelius in silent reflection, the discipline of focus was always a core element of authority and strategy. If distraction is allowed to reshape your mind, your ability to lead yourself and others diminishes. But when you reclaim your mental strength, you also reclaim your influence, your power, and your sense of purpose. And yet, there's an even subtler threat, one that doesn't steal your attention through noise, but through carefully crafted illusions that feel like truth. In the age of mass information, truth has become negotiable. Narratives are shaped, polished, and repeated until they feel real, regardless of whether they are. This is how influence is gained, not always through facts, but through the authority of repetition. The danger lies in how easily our minds accept familiar ideas. The more often you hear something, the more credible it feels. This is why powerful systems repeat their messages endlessly, because repetition bypasses analysis and lodges itself in belief. For those who seek leadership and self-mastery, this means developing a disciplined skepticism. It's not about rejecting everything, but about testing everything against reason, evidence, and your own strategic goals. A practical method is to keep a mental filter for information. Before accepting a statement, ask, who benefits if I believe this? What evidence supports it? Would I still agree if the roles were reversed? These questions protect your autonomy. History is full of leaders who mastered the manipulation of perceived truth, from ancient emperors shaping public opinion through oratory, to modern media empires controlling global narratives. Understanding the tactic makes you less vulnerable to it. But awareness is not enough. One must also learn to communicate their own truth with clarity, authority, and influence. If you do not define your narrative, someone else will define it for you. And that leads us to the final threat, the slow erosion of wisdom itself, replaced by a culture that values noise over depth. Wisdom is not lost overnight. It fades quietly, replaced by quick opinions, shallow entertainment, and the glorification of instant gratification. When a society stops valuing reflection, it also stops producing leaders with real authority, strategy, and self-mastery. True wisdom requires time, humility, and a willingness to learn from those who came before. Yet today, the teachings of philosophers, leaders, and thinkers are often reduced to bite-sized quotes, stripped of context and depth. Influence built on fragments cannot withstand real challenges. Without wisdom, respect becomes fragile, and power becomes reckless. Leadership turns into performance, strategy into improvisation, and the development of mind and spirit into an afterthought. Restoring wisdom begins at the personal level. It means reading deeply, engaging in conversations with people who challenge your perspective, and reflecting on the lessons life offers daily. These habits strengthen both leadership and emotional resilience. It also requires discernment in what you consume. Not every piece of information deserves your attention. Not every voice deserves influence over your mind. Choosing your sources is an act of authority over your own destiny. When individuals reclaim wisdom, they build a foundation that no distraction or false narrative can shake. They embody the kind of power that is both rare and magnetic, the kind that inspires others to rise. And once you recognize this truth, the only question left is, will you guard wisdom as your most valuable asset, or let it slip away like so many already have? If you've stayed with me until now, you already feel it. That quiet pull towards something deeper, something stronger than the distractions and illusions around you. You've seen how respect, power, authority, and self-mastery are not gifts, but disciplines earned through deliberate action. The question is no longer if you can take control, but when you will begin. Will you keep letting the world dictate your focus, or will you reclaim your influence, your leadership, and your inner clarity? The decision and its consequences are entirely yours. Start small, set boundaries against noise, seek wisdom in places few bother to look, and surround yourself with those who value strategy over chaos. These are not just habits, they are acts of defiance in a culture built to keep you reactive. But don't keep this journey to yourself. Share what you've learned, test it, and refine it through real conversations. Comment below with the insight that struck you the hardest. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. And if you value growth, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This is not entertainment. This is training for the mind, for the spirit, for the leader within you. The path doesn't end here. The next video appearing on your screen and linked in the description will take these ideas even further, sharpening your strategy and deepening your mastery. Because the truth is simple. In a world built to control your mind, the greatest victory is to own it completely.